By the power of Thundercats. Oh! Thundercats was one of those mid-80s cartoon series. You're probably familiar with it. Ran on CPC in the UK, had toys attached. There's a hero. There was a team of heroes. There's a baddie called Mum-Ra. They're the Thundercats. He's evil. They fight. There's toys. Back when I was at uni, we had a module talking about narrative and all sorts of kind of things. And my mate wanted to submit an essay called Mum-Ra is a Racist. Discuss. Elite got the license and we're going to dive straight in on the Amstrad CPC. I first came across this on a CMVG demo tape on the, it must have been January 88 or December 1987 edition of CMVG. Had Thundercats on the cover and they gave away one level on the C64, the Spectrum and the CPC. Spectrum and CPC had level 1 and the C64 had level 2. And this was quite good because I had a mate with the C64, so I got to play level 2, and frankly that was pretty much all I needed to see of the game. Spoilers. So we start off on CPC. Mum-Ra the Ever-Living holds the Eye of Thunderer. Dare you search for it? Well, we've loaded the game, so we had better, hadn't we? There we are, you are Lion-O, and you have your magical sword. You know, like He-Man. Baddies run towards you. And some of them are small and some of them are big, so you have to bend down to hit them, and things are hidden in trees, power-ups. And you're also going against a timer. Now, the timer doesn't mean that it's just game over when the timer runs out. No, the game just becomes infinitely more difficult. Spectrum version. And there he is in all his glory. Lion-O. 128K sound. For the new plus 2A was out for Christmas 87, wasn't it? It's quite a nice tune. Rob Hubbard, I certainly did the C64 version, presumably did the CPC and Spectrum versions. As with all Elite games, there is a big Elite logo. And if you're thinking the graphics in this look a bit like a gargoyle game, you'd be right. Elite started developing an in-house version of Thundercats in time for Christmas 87, and then they realised it probably wasn't going to make it, so then they commissioned 2 more games. They bought this game from Gargoyle, which was called Samurai Dawn, that Gargoyle were developing, and modified it to be a Thundercats game, or Gargoyle to develop it. They also had another development team doing a game that I believe ended up as Beyond the Ice Palace, which Elite also tried to pitch to Capcom as a Ghosts and Goblins sequel, but they already had ghouls and ghosts in the pipeline, so that didn't work. But then they turned it into Beyond the Ice Palace, which is why Beyond the Ice Palace is a little bit like Ghosts and Goblins. Meanwhile, the internal, and we look at the Spectrum 48K version now, by the way, just so you can see what it looks like on a 48K. Obviously, there's only beeps and things. Actually, I think it's a bit more sympathetic to the graphics on the 48K with the composite / UHF output. And then the game they were developing internally at Elite became Bombjack 2. We're over to the C64 now. And it's a bit confusing because on level 1 on the C64, you don't run from left to right at the start of level 1, you run from right to left, which is a bit confusing when you come over from the Spectrum and Amstrad versions. It does vary it in the game. Some levels you go left, some levels you go right. The arrow will point, except on one crucial occasion where the arrow will lie to you. Here we are on 16-bits. There are ST and Amiga versions of this game, amazingly, for Christmas 87. Not many ST and Amiga owners, certainly not many Amiga owners around at this time. But Elite did like to do releases for the ST and Amiga at this time, at a time where bigger software houses like Ocean weren't bothering yet. It's exactly the same concept as the Spectrum and Amstrad versions on the ST. We're going from left to right. Over to the Amiga. And And these weird beak men. I don't know, do these baddies have any relation to Thundercats at all? These weird beak men. Oh, my timer's run out, but I just got there in time. This thing appears above you, and then the levels become more difficult. And this is quite astonishing, because the game is actually slowing down on the Amiga. It may not be perceptible watching it, but when you get more on the screen, the game really massively slows down. And this isn't because of the machine I'm running it on. It seems to happen on no matter what machine you run it on. It's a straight ST port, although I didn't notice the ST slowing down as much, that is running on hardware that is incredibly optimised for throwing 2D sprites and graphics around, and it's not using any of that hardware. This level you have to be careful which power-ups you pick up, because the power-up we just passed there will in fact give you a sword again, but you need the laser thingy here to get over these jumpy bits. Because the laser has greater range than your sword, which can only obviously go as far as you can hit. It's all very generic. And really, yeah, I mean, you'd have to like Thundercats. It's been interesting reading the comments about this game when I've been talking about reviewing it on Twitter. And some people have got incredibly fond memories of it. Oh no, my time is running out now. The baddies are going to be hundreds of baddies. Back on the Amstrad version at the same point in level 2. Yeah, I mean, people seem to have really fond memories of this game. But I think it's because they liked Thundercats. There are things on the Spectrum and Amstrad versions. I do like the main character sprite. It's patently not Lion-O. But it has that gargoyle feel, and once you realise it was going to be another gargoyle game, a faster than light game by this time, actually, they would have branded it. You realise it might have been something special, but I don't think it's finished. I think they've brought it up as it was. So on this level, you have to rescue Tigra. And if you lose a level, it's game over. Same level on the Spectrum. These little baddies there, they deflect your... Oh, dear. Yeah, they deflect your bullet things. So you don't get your bonus now. Now you have to choose your way through the Garden of Elementals. And this is horrible. Especially when you're playing it on capture delay. Because these things fly at you from left and right, and you have to keep hitting them. And it just becomes a very fast reaction game. Oh, dear. See, I died. And you've got jumps to make, and the things come on the screen. Of course, I'm playing on a half a second plus delay on capture. So it's not a lot of fun. And there's my spaceship thing, which appears differently on the C64. It appears as a power-up, and then you jump into it. And there you are, your Lion-O. And you're riding along in your spaceship. This is something from Thundercats. I've got to say, I never really got into Thundercats. There were too many cartoons like this around at the time. Mask was great. I had a Mask bedspread. I still have a Mask bedspread if Mrs. Chinny would let me. And Mask had a better tune. Why don't we play Mask? That's got a game. We must play that one of these weeks. It's probably terrible. That was the ST version. If you hadn't realised. If you want to learn more about all the different versions of this game, then I believe Larry Bundy Jr. has a video on all this stuff. I've not seen it for a few years, but as I recall, it's very, very good. Just type in the search bar Larry Bundy Jr. Thundercats. I'm sure it will bring it up, and all his videos are absolutely brilliant, so just check him out. If I scripted this stuff, that might have sounded more organised, but, you know, this is ChinnyVision. It matters not which way you go through the Garden of Elementals, because you're going to get pretty bored either way. This is the water level. They put too much fairy liquid in the ponds, so you have to jump over the pond bits because the bubble's coming out. I think the ST version is slowing down when there's a lot on screen. Level 7 on the Amstrad. Look, finally we see Mum Ra, or something that looks like Mum Ra. And he's incredibly hard to get past. You have to hit him with your sword, but he throws these things at you that you can't destroy. I am playing with a cheat, if you hadn't realised. And here's Mum Ra on the C64. We're halfway through the game. Take note. I'm just going to keep hitting him, frankly. Now, on the C64, when the timer runs out, instead of it just becoming harder, a diamond will drop out the sky and kill you. As you do. Back on the ST. And this is level 10. The game does dish out power-ups, mainly extra lives, like Smarties. Especially on some of these levels. It's like the designers thought, oh goodness, we've made... See, another one there. We've made this far too hard. We will just give you extra lives to make up for the fact we've made this game too hard. I don't think this game's finished. I think Elite just rang round everyone they knew and went, hey, have you got any games? We can adapt to be a Thundercats game. I've never played Beyond the Ice Palace, but I have played Bomb Jack 2. I got it on budget when I was a kid on the Amstrad. I really liked it. It thought never occurred to me it was intended to be a Thundercats game. Indeed, it doesn't feel like a Thundercats game. Of course, I think it's the C64 version has the Thundercats theme on the menu screen. So we get to level 14 and notice a problem. This is the final level. You can't jump up here, even though the arrow at the bottom of the screen is pointing left, which it does from the start of the level. So you go left because that's where the arrow is pointing. Then you reach this point and, well, you cannot get any further. So if we go over to the ST, this is the final battle. The arrow is pointing left. Okay? But notice there's no level... Oh dear, I'm dying a lot, but... Hey, I've got infinite lives. So, arrow's pointing left. I'm running right. I've been running right for 2 minutes now, and I've got 1:55 left on the timer. And look, here we go. We've got a... And there's the start of the level. And there is the spaceship thing we need to jump in. It's so hard now. It's insane. There we go. Here we go. Right, 14 seconds, 13 seconds. That's the end of the level. And I don't know if that's what the end of the game is supposed to say, because here on the ST it says, Naja son, strike the thief. Big bug, eaten, right the thief, big bug. Something, something. So, yeah, but that's the end of the game. You don't get to fight Mum Ra. You fight Mum Ra on what it was at level 7, and that's it. And yet, on the C64, like all the other versions, you need to go right, not left, as the arrow indicates at the start of the level, which of course isn't the start of the level. It seems Thundercats was a game that Elite needed to get out at all cost for Christmas 1987. I mean, they had 3 versions in development, right? I never played Beyond the Ice Palace, so I can't comment on that. The Bomb Jack 2, okay, it's not a Thundercats game, but it is way, way better than this. This is a gargoyle game. This is a faster than light game, and usually their stuff was far better than this. This doesn't feel finished. It feels like Thundercats have been absolutely shoehorned into it at the last possible moment. The irony is that CNVG cover tape told you all you needed to know about the game. If you had a Spectrum and Amstrad and had a mate who had a Commodore 64, you'd seen 2 levels, and in fact, that was pretty much all the game had between those 2 levels. Level 2 is pretty much the best level in the game. Amstrad and Spectrum versions are definitely gargoyle games. They look like it. This game could have been something so much better, but it's simply awful. C64 version. A lot of people say they like this game, but I can't get into it. It just doesn't feel finished. It doesn't feel fun. It feels incredibly repetitive. ST and Amiga versions, same again. It's not really 16-bit games. They've not upped the ante for these new, expensive, state-of-the-art machines. It's the same game, but with slightly better graphics. Thundercats was the big TV series for 87, and Elite had to get a game out at all cost. And they did it, and it's not completely awful. It's not completely awful by any means. But the problem is, you play a couple of those levels, you play the CMVG cover cassette, and that's it. That's all there really is. There's just 14 levels of pretty much the same thing. Thundercats isn't an awful game. Yes, this ties up better than, say, Bomb Jack 2 would with the franchise. But the most disappointing thing about this game is what would that faster than light gargoyle game have become? That on Spectrum and Amstrad, where they did so much of their best work. Just looking at that sprite, would this have been it, or would it have been something far better? I would like to think they would have done something far better. Overall, at best, this is a mediocre caching game on a very popular kids' TV show.